So somebody with like a £3,000 credit card, if they're only paying the minimum interest, that can take them up to 20 years, over 20 years to pay off. And the bank is raking in all of that interest. So they're using us, they're using our money. So many people have experienced financial trauma and they're not even aware of it. Being exposed to like their parents arguing about money, fighting about money. Do you know what I mean? And there's always all this stuff going on, and they've absorbed all of that and then internalized it and then probably acting it out in their day-to-day life. You'll be surprised how you start shopping and making sure you don't go over that $50. But if there isn't a budget for that, then you just spend, it might be $60 one week, $80 another week, then you're not being accountable with your money.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Chatting with the Experts TV show, where I, Paula Okonneh, the host, speak with women from Africa and the Caribbean and in the diaspora. These women are successful business owners and professional. And the mission of this show is to educate, to empower, and inspire women globally. I sometimes have men on the show, but 99.9% of the time, my guests are women. So the guest today is Norma Cassius, and the title of this episode is Think Like a Bank. Think Like a Bank focuses on navigating the financial landscape with strategies and with intelligence. And Norma's objective is to guide you in applying the same principles that banks use to benefit you, listener, viewer, and even for me, because I learn something new every day. So the aim of Think Like a Bank is to empower you to outsmart this system. I'll tell you a little bit about Norma. She is a money management and mental health consultant with over 20 years of experience in the financial sector, and she's based in Harley Street, London. She's a qualified psychotherapist with 17 years of experience across various therapeutic settings. So she brings a unique blend of expertise to her work. She's also the founder and CEO of Think Like a Bank, which gives an innovative approach to money management, and she's also an author. There's so much I can say about her, but why don't I do this? Let me just welcome her to Chatting with the Experts show. So welcome to the show, Norma.
Welcome. Hi. Lovely to be on the show. I'm honored, in fact, to be on your show, Paula. So thank you.
Thank you. I always try to read a bit of my guest's bio, but I can't say everything because my guests are always so phenomenal. There's so much to say about them. So what I do is ask them to say a bit more because I don't know if I said everything.
That's fine. So thank you for the introduction. So yeah, you did cover quite a bit about who I am and what I do. And as you quite rightly said, I'm a money management and mental health consultant. And for a lot of people, they sort of like not sure about the connection of money management and mental health and how does that work together. So I'll just give you a backdrop of my story and how I combined my two areas of expertise together. So at one point in my life, I was a single mother with three children aged 6 years and under. I had a mortgage to pay, a car to run, all on a part-time salary. And it was at that point I had to either sink or swim. And as you know, cost of living, when people talk about this cost of living crisis, I was in a cost of living crisis for over a decade because from the day I became a single mother, I never received one penny from the father of my three children. So I had to make every penny count, as you can imagine, having a mortgage to pay, three children to be responsible for, and everything that goes with that. And so, had I not had at that time I was working in the bank, so thankfully I had some knowledge of like financial knowledge, and also I gained a lot of my financial knowledge from my parents. As children, we're like sponges. Children are like sponges where they absorb everything consciously or unconsciously. And I saw how my parents managed to maximize their money. Now, my dad back in the 50s, he had two properties and a dry cleaners in Jamaica. And then he came to England. He was part of the Windrush generation. Do you know what the Windrush generation is?
Mhm. Yes.
So my parents were part of that. And he came to England and bought the largest house on the road. I think that's where I get my high chest from because, he made his money work for him. He had the best of everything. He had the best his money could buy, but he was very frugal. Between my mum and my dad, there were six of us, and I'm sure my dad must have gave my money the same housekeeper for like a decade, and she had to make it work, right, and make it work. She did. It felt like we had everything and lacked nothing. Looking back now, just reflecting on my mum's journey, I know that couldn't have been easy. It had to be a skill. She was so resourceful. She would make something out of nothing. She made our underwear, sewed, by hand, our clothes, she sewed all our clothes by hand. She really made it work. And my dad was somebody who was a very proud man. He wanted, the best of everything his money could buy. So he wanted hard food, his meat on one plate, his like the dashing and the yam and all that on a
Oh
separate
my
plate,
God.
and the rice. Yeah,
Crazy.
that's what he wanted. And he didn't care if my mum couldn't make it happen. She had to, and she did. So just seeing how resourceful my mum was with the little she had, and seeing my dad maximize what he had, I drew from both of those experiences, and combined with my financial education from working within the bank. And I survived through my situation as a single parent.
Wow. Wow. It's great knowing your background, how you got there. So one of the things I noticed that stood out for me, well, I like the name of your company, Think Like a Bank. I
Mhm,
also like the fact that, you're both a money management and mental health consultant. But
mhm.
how do we beat banks at their own game?
So basically, banks' number one goal is to make a profit. And
Yes.
make a profit they do. How? From people like you and me. Because when we, as you know, you put your money in the bank, it's not just sitting there gathering interest. Banks use our money to buy financial products such as loans, credit cards, mortgages, and whatsoever else. When we borrow money, so for example, if you were to put £3,000 in a bank in say, in your savings, it would earn what, 1%, 2% interest. But to draw out or to get a loan for that amount of money or a credit card, the credit cards are just all, they're just awful if you don't know how to manage it. We're talking about 18%, 20%, 24%.
Yes.
That's how much you would have to, percentage you would pay in interest and charges for using that money. So somebody with like a £3,000 credit card, if they're only paying the minimum interest, that can take them up to 20 years, over 20 years to pay off, and the bank is raking in all of that interest. So they're using us, they're using our money. So for me, I use their money. I use the same principle as them. I use a 0% credit card. If your credit score is good, you can get a 0% credit card. And I teach people, a lot of people say, oh, my credit's not good, I'd never be able to do that. I run a financial boot camp and I teach you all different financial principles. And that's one of them, to work on your credit score so that not only when you're using credit, you get a good credit, you can use a 0% credit card, but if you want to get a mortgage or a credit card or a loan and you've got a good credit score, then you will get financial products at a much lower interest rate than somebody whose credit score is not good. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So with that said, if one, because what about if you're paying off your balance every month? Like you have a credit card that has a 20%.
And you're
Um,
paying it off every month, and that's fine. You're not giving the bank any of your money because you're not
okay.
paying any interest. But I would say 65 to 70% of people have money on their credit card. So every month, we're in a cost of living crisis. People want to still live that Instagram lifestyle. They still want to live that lifestyle. A lot of people are, as you quite rightly said, my private practice is in Harley Street, London, which is the renowned medical district of the world. So
Yes.
it's where the rich and famous, the Queen and celebrities, everybody flies into Harley Street to have any medical procedure, from plastic surgery to psychotherapy.
Mhm.
And so I'm working with clients that have high net worth. And it truly, really isn't about how much you earn. It really isn't. It's not how much you have, how much you earn. It's what you do with what you earn. Because
Mm.
as we all, well, people are aware, people that earn a lot of money, they live that lifestyle. So they will live in the multi-million-pound houses. They will drive the top of the range cars. The children will be in private school. All of that costs money. So by the time all of their outgoings have gone out of their account, they're in the same situation as somebody that would be working in a supermarket. It's just on a larger scale. And how do you think that affects their mental well-being? Because that's the lifestyle they have, that's an image they have. I've worked with celebrities, and the fear of not being able to continue to live that lifestyle is so powerful that it really does cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of depression. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, it's not about the money. 80% is about your psychology of money, and I'll get into that in a minute. And coupled with your financial education, 20% is about the money.
That's a good one. 20% is about the money, and 80% is about the education you have about money and your psychology
Of
about.
money.
Wow, that's a good one. So tell us about that. You said you get to that in a point in a minute.
Sure.
So
So we all have our own individual psychology of money. And in a nutshell, your psychology of money is your beliefs, which influence your thoughts, and your thoughts influence your actions about saving, budgeting, spending, and investing. So, for example, you've grown up in a household with siblings, right? Do you have siblings, Paula?
I've got the same amount of siblings as you do. My
Oh,
parents,
right.
six of us.
Exactly, right. And I'm sure when you reflect on your siblings, although you was exposed to the same money experiences growing up, whether that was an abundance household or a household with scarcity and lack, whatever the case may be, I'm sure that everybody would have processed it in an individual way.
Mhm.
So you might be, a spender, another sibling might be frugal. So how we internalize what we've been exposed to, that then shapes a pattern of our relationship with money and how we are with money. Now, I'm just baffled because I work with couples as well. Couples come into my consultation room for financial therapy. And
Mhm.
when I ask them about their experiences with money, so many people have experienced financial trauma and they're not even aware of it. Being exposed to like their parents arguing about money, fighting about money. Do you know what I mean? And there's always all this stuff going on, and they've absorbed all of that and then internalized it and then probably acting it out in their day-to-day life. They might
Mhm.
just spend, I mean, I'll give you an example. So one of the clients I was working with, it was a guy, and he was in my financial boot camp. And we started to work, and then he started to get a bit. And so I took him aside and started to do some exploration with him. And I asked him, what's up? What's going on for you? Because obviously some things trigger people. And
Mhm.
so he said when he was growing up, his mum used to, after their evening meal, lock the kitchen door. And then in the morning, he would go to school. So I don't know if she didn't open up the kitchen door to give breakfast, but he said he used to go to school hungry. And
Oh,
as a result, he was so angry with his mum for doing that to him.
no.
And he had so much hatred towards his mum, unforgiveness towards his mum. And as a result, he was just spending everything. Anytime he got any money, he was spending it because now he's an adult, he can. But he's in a relationship. And that now is affecting his relationship. He's not had this discussion with his partner. So she don't know what's going on. And money is one of the number one things that breaks down a
Yes,
relationship.
yes, yes, yes.
So I said to him, have you spoken to your mum about this? He was too angry. But after a while, I started to work with him on a therapeutic level. He was able to go and ask his mum. Because I said to her, although what she did was not right, it may be learnt behavior. It may be what she was exposed to, that, her mum did that, not to, to be cruel or anything, but just to preserve the food, to ensure that at least she could guarantee that her children would have one wholesome meal, you know? I mean, I'm not condoning what she did, but I'm just trying to understand what may have happened. But in order to find out what really was going on for your mum, you need to have that conversation. It took a while because obviously he's had that within him for so long.
Mhm.
And he did go and speak to his mum. And as I said, so it was.
She had
That's
very
exactly
much.
what happened to her. So she thought she was doing a good thing by ensuring that the family was able to have one hot meal in the evening. But yeah, but
Wow.
look how he internalized it and how traumatized he was from it. That he was such an angry person and angry in his relationship, and his girlfriend was trying to understand what's going on, and he was screaming and shouting. It was awful. But after, going through that therapeutic process, he felt vulnerable enough to go and have that conversation with his, and that repaired their relationship.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And so now I can see the connection between, being a mental health consultant and being a money management consultant, because then his attitude towards the money has changed and it
Absolutely.
was, yeah. And so he's a much better steward of money now.
Absolutely, definitely, it's coming from a different perspective because,
Mhm.
through the therapeutic work we did, had to explain to him that was then where you never had no control over what was happening to you.
Mhm.
Now you're an adult, that's not happening to you anymore. You're earning your own money for you to spend it how you will. So you're making the decisions over your money. You're empowered now to make those decisions. And nobody can do that to you ever again.
So true. So true. And so, I mean, you're saving a generation possibly of
Absolutely.
having to go through him reliving his own life, early life experience and imposing it on them if he did have
Absolutely. And
children.
so many people live a repetitive, a generational trauma. They pass on generational because there hasn't been any therapeutic intervention. People don't have that self-awareness. We know couples are arguing about money all the time. I see it all the time in my practice. So, I have to obviously work therapeutically to help them understand their own individual psychology of money. What is yours? Because most people don't even know. And
Yes.
then once they exactly, I ask people that it's like they're looking at me like I'm blue. I mean, what are you asking me? So most people don't know or understand what their own psychology of money is. So that's a starting point, and it takes work to. I was working with another guy from Ghana, and he said he came from a big family, and in Ghana there's like a hierarchy. So when it came to food, and like he would get like the chicken back, the cheapest part of the chicken, where of the elders would get the best part of the chicken. And
Yeah.
so for him, that was scarcity. So he had a scarcity mindset. And that's how he was with his money. And that for him, that was so traumatic for him because people hold this trauma, don't they?
Yes, they do. They do.
So
Wow.
for me, as a single mother, I know there's so many people out there, and that's why I am so passionate about it, can't make ends meet. They haven't got enough money to come in. They don't know how to manage it. And then how much stress does that put on a person? How does that affect you emotionally? You're feeling that, oh, you're failing, you're not good enough, I can't provide for my children. How does that affect your mental well-being?
Yes, yeah, you're right. You're right. So talk to me about how you encourage people to be financially savvy. I mean, now we've talked about the psychology of
Yes,
money and how, once that's overcome, or
yes,
any hurdles with that overcome, then we can become better stewards of money. How do we do that?
absolutely.
How to become financially savvy?
Absolutely. Well, it really starts with knowing your numbers. What do I mean?
Knowing your numbers. Okay.
Absolutely. What do I mean by that? As I said, I run a financial boot camp. And one of the preparation strategies that I use is I ask people to send me their income and expenditure. Now, most people, I'd say 80% of people just take it off the top of their head and write it down. So when they get to the financial boot camp and I take them through the techniques and the strategies of, because budgeting isn't just income and expenditure, documenting that. If it was that, everybody would be doing it and there wouldn't be a financial issue. But your budgeting is like the foundation. Mastering how to budget is a foundation of any money management practices. So knowing your numbers, know exactly where every penny's going, how it's going, when it's going, and where it's going. A lot of people are giving your money an assignment. A lot of people, we live in a society where we're governed and led by plastic. People are swiping left, right, and center. They go in their account one day and there's hundreds of pounds in it. Go back to that account a few days later, they think their account's been hacked. It's been robbed. No, you've been spending money and now it's just come out of your account. Do you know what I mean? I
Yes.
mean, it's really sad. And I mean, in my boot camp to date, the person that spent the most on eating out was 800, I say dollars, I say in dollars, $800 for the month. That's not including,
$800 eaten out.
yes, that's not including food shopping or anything. She thought it was about $200. It nearly brought tears to her eyes.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hmm. So now, at the end of the day, with the budget, you're able to pinpoint to her where most of her money was going.
Absolutely. So obviously, I take them through the exercises of just identifying, putting your money into categories. So for example, people don't have with budgeting, you need micro budgeting. That's one of the tools that I help people build. So what do I mean by micro budgeting? So if you've got a food budget, I ask people, do you have a budget for food? Do you have a budget for toiletries? Do you have a budget for socializing? They don't. They might just say, "Oh, well, I spend, £100, but they would go over and spend £300 if you assign a certain amount of money in certain pockets, because a lot of banking apps now have all these tools to help people manage their money, where you can assign certain like a money for a budget for like socializing, as I said, eating out, shopping, subscriptions, all. So you put certain amounts of money in these different pockets, and you work out how much you need for each thing and you stick to it. Once it's gone, they will even tell you when you're getting low on your pocket that you've got X amount of money left. Tracking your money. People are not tracking their money.
Mhm. People are not tracking their money, especially when they're using the plastics. You just
Apps that
swipe
plastic,
them.
and it's like, I go back to psychological. It's so easy to swipe the card than to depart with cash.
Yes, yeah, you are absolutely right. Because I know from my personal experience, for years, I didn't carry cash when my children were younger because I felt if I carried cash, I would be more readily spend cash than I
Mhm,
personally would take out a card and
mhm,
swipe it.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? I mean, to ask myself, but I never
Oh,
had cash on me primarily for that reason because I'd spend it.
okay.
Whereas for me personally, swiping the card meant I would see it show up on a statement, and I could, and then of course the bank would categorize it into, this was groceries, this was eating out, this
Mhm.
was, the movie theaters or whatever. And so that led me to go from cash to the plastic as opposed to
Right.
from the plastic to cash
To the
because I
place.
couldn't document my cash.
Right, okay. And as I said, everybody has their own way, their own mindset of how they manage their money. And if it works for you, good. If it's not serving you, then you have to, go back to the drawing board or get some help to make it make sense for you.
Mhm.
Because, if you're in a relationship where you might be managing your money really well, and how frustrating if you're with somebody that's frivolous with their money.
Yes. Yes, that's really a bone of can be a bone of contention between the two of them.
Absolutely. So knowing your numbers, when you know, and I keep going back to psychology, but when you know your numbers, for example, if you say, okay, I've got £200 a month for groceries, £50, $50 a week, I'm just using a figure.
Mhm.
Psychologically, you've got that $50. You'll be surprised and you start shopping and making sure you don't go over that $50. But if there isn't a budget for that, then you just spend, it might be $60 one week, $80 another week. Then you're not being accountable with your money.
Yes. That's a good one. How about, okay, so we talked about doing your numbers. How about navigating debt? So you're already in debt. How do you navigate out of that?
Right, okay. So there's various ways. I mean, for example, if you're in like credit card debt, because there's so many people in credit card debt, don't know how to get out of it. The first thing to do is, I mean, a lot, and I found people are experts in their field, but when it comes to money, it's almost like they regress to like a childlike state because they don't know where to begin. They don't have the confidence in managing their money. But navigating debt, it's especially if it's like credit card debt, it's about looking at the credit cards with the most APRs, the annual percentage rate, working with those. And, so you might have three credit cards, one at 24%, one at 20%, one at 18%. The 18% one may have more on it than the one with the 24%, but you're paying more interest on the one for 24%. So, for an example, what I teach people to do is to say you've got three credit cards that total like £6,000.
Mhm.
I would say, and you're paying like altogether with the free credit cards, you're paying like £150 a month towards the free credit cards that you're in debt with. I would say pay the minimum on the two credit cards with the less interest rate
Mhm.
and put the majority. So if you're paying £150 over the free credit cards, I would say pay 120, £25 on the one with the highest interest rate and pay the minimum on the two less interest rate, the cards with the less interest rate. Continue doing that until you pay off that first credit card. Once you pay off that first credit card, then that frees up that money. So instead of paying it over three credit cards, now you've got that money to pay over two credit cards. So you then go to the next credit card with the highest rate and you put the majority, that same £150 on that credit card and the minimum on the less with the less interest rate and repeat that action. That is a good way of navigating debt.
So aim to pay off the one with the highest interest rate first,
Absolutely.
and then go to the one underneath that next one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So like if you had three, as you said, three credit cards, so the final one that you pay off would be the one with the least amount of interest, because then you have that money and it will pull down that balance and that you have accrued, interest that you've accrued on that by not paying it off.
Absolutely. And another way of navigating debt is, as I said, with credit cards again. I'll talk about credit cards because that's one of the biggest problems that I'm working with. A lot of people is working with a 0% credit card. So if you're eligible for a 0% credit card, once
Yeah.
you're coming to the end of the term and you've still got a balance on it, then you do a balance transfer to another 0%. So you're avoiding paying interest. You just try and you just keep repeating that pattern until you obviously are in a place where you're out of debt.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of
Because
sense.
it's about trying to minimize the money that you're giving to the bank. People just say, okay, I'm in this debt and I'm paying what I can. And a lot
Yeah.
of it's minimum payment. And it's revolving debt. It's like you're on a treadmill, but you're not going anywhere. You're paying this money. And also with people with loans and that or mortgages about refinancing, but you need like a financial advisor because it's obviously they need to be advised to be able to get a better product if you can get a better product. So before you get a better product, it's best to work on your credit score so that your credit is in a good place so that when you do launch out to see if you can get a better rate for whatever financial product you got, whether that's a mortgage or a loan, whatever, you will get a better rate of interest and you'll be paying the bank less interest. So it's about using those tips and tricks just to navigate your way because I don't want to give the bank. I mean, I paid off one of my mortgages, a 25-year mortgage in 10 years
Ooh.
by
Ooh.
making overpayments, doubling up my payments on my mortgage to pay it off so that I saved over £14,000 in interest.
I can imagine. So you paid it towards the capital or you're putting
And
the,
towards the capital.
okay, because I've
Yeah,
had that discussion with some people who say, no, take it and pay it towards the interest,
no.
the
It's a
capital.
principle. That's what you're paying it to. That
Oh,
is what you're paying the money
yeah.
to bring down. So these are the ways that that you can navigate your debt. It's all about thinking like a bank because a bank, as I said, its number one goal is to make a profit, and they are making a profit from a lot of people that don't know how to manage credit.
Yes.
That's why when young people went to university, they was throwing those credit cards at them because
Yeah.
they knew they was away from home, didn't have the parental guidance and advice. They thought, I've never had this money before. They was maxing out those credit cards, like, and the banks took advantage of that.
Great advantage of that. Whoa, wow. So finally, you talked about maximizing your money without a struggle. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so when I was a single parent, although I didn't have much money, I maximized it. I made every penny and every pound work for me. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was in control of my money. I knew where every penny and every pound was going. All the financial tycoons and the rich, the financially successful people have some sort of financial statement. They know where every pound and every penny was going. I was watching a program called How the Other Half Live. And there was this self-made multimillionaire. He was worth like 66 million. And he used his 0% credit card to fly to Australia on a first class flight and was able to get a holiday from it using his credit card.
So
And
he
it's a multimillionaire.
whoa. So he
So
bought the ticket, with his credit card,
no,
but
because he had points. Because
he
these
had
credit cards they
points.
give you different points. So obviously, the more you use it, the more points you get. Whatever, and he's been traveling for a while, so he's racking up air miles. So he's maximizing the bank's money. Because he's been able to, and he's a multimillionaire.
Shows
So how much
he
more
became a
us? Absolutely. So with me, I knew exactly every pound and every penny I had. I mean, thankfully, when I was a single mother, I found a shop, a local supermarket that was quite, on the lower scale. And I was able to like buy all my weekly shopping for £20 for me and my three children. So me and my children were eating cream cheese and smoked salmon and bagels for breakfast.
by going to that like a
By going to
small
that, absolutely. We was living
supermarket.
like kings and queens. And as I said, as I worked in the bank, every year we got a bonus. And I took that bonus because I didn't want my children to see, like, we had to be watching our pennies all the time. I wanted to be able to give them a balance. And as a result, the bonus that I got from my bank, I used that and flew my children out every year. So as I said, they would have their rucksacks filled to the brim, and it weren't with electrical toys or dollies. It was with rice, biscuits, tea bags. Do you know what I mean? It was me being resourceful again, right? So when we
Yeah.
got to our destination, all we had to buy was meat and vegetables.
So you were going to like out in those days, they probably didn't have the Airbnb. So you were going to like a
Apartments, three.
apartment.
Yeah, I could only afford our hotels 3 star. I wouldn't go any lower than 3 star, but it was like 3 star. So I had to do my own food. It was always
Food.
apartments. Yeah. So I'd have to cook my own food, but that was okay. My priority and objective was to just fly my children out and show them what life can really be. So, as I said, it weren't like to holidays in England. It was like to the Caribbean, to the whole of Europe. They really did have a quality of life. So I've done that, and people have seen what I've done in my life and done for my children as a single mother. And that's how I want to financially empower. It's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Knowledge is always required.
Yes, it's what you do with what you have. Wow. Whoa, whoa. I always say this 30 minutes goes by so quickly. And yep, we've been talking for a little over 30 minutes. So this has been very helpful. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do and how you can even help them? Because I know you have clients, but
Sure.
as a business owner, one is always looking for more clients.
Absolutely. So my website is my name, Norma Cassius. I'm not sure if you could put that in the chat or whatever. normacassius.com. That's my website. And my Instagram handle is think.like.a.bank.
At think.like.a
Dot a dot
bank.
bank.
Like it,
Yes,
that's creative.
yes, very much so. Very
Are you
much so.
on, are you on LinkedIn? There's
I'm
no,
on LinkedIn and that's Norma Cassius.
Okay, Norma Cassius.
But I mainly use Instagram at the moment. That's where I am. So shoot me a DM if you need any information, if you wanted a consultation. Financial therapy is the thing for a lot of people, just to get them understand their psychology of money so they are in the right mindset to be able to manage their money. And not only teach them, but their family, their generation. We need to stop this. People of color, do you know what I mean? When it comes to money, I couldn't sit down with my parents and discuss money. They would say that's a big people's business,
Yes,
right?
that's
We
not for you.
no, exactly. But we need to break that cycle. So break that generational trauma that we've been through a lot as in our community, haven't we?
Mm.
And we can break that through knowledge because knowledge is power. And that's what I'm here to do, to empower as many people as I can.
Yeah, so we always have people who join the show and who are in the audience. They'll have an opportunity to even ask you more questions about
Mhm.
exactly what you talked about, and how they can contact you, because I know you're global. So even though
Yeah.
you're based in England, you can
Mm,
still talk with someone virtually and
absolutely.
help them with whatever questions or difficulties they may have overcoming the trauma, the money trauma that they may have suffered in their youth.
Mm.
So we'll definitely give them a chance to speak with you. And for those of you who are watching online this program, if you'd like to be a guest on my show, reach out to me on my website, which is chattingwiththeexperts.com. I'm also on LinkedIn as Paula Okonneh. I'm on Instagram, and my handle there is at chat_experts_podcast. And I always hesitate because for some reason, my handle always confuses me. So I don't want you guys confused. And I'm on Facebook as Paula Okonneh. Thank you so much, Norma, for being on the show. And believe it or not, I got in touch with Norma because I listened to her on a podcast. And once I heard what she was talking about, I was like, I'd love to have her on my show. I reached out to her and she said yes. So please reach out to me, because somebody may hear you on a podcast and your life story may change. Thank you, Norma.
You're
And thank
welcome.